Life insurance to me is likely one of the most boring things anybody could think of, but just because someone has a policy doesn't mean they have a plan. Most people like me have spent a long portion of their life where you have some 401ks you've started, you've had time where you are in between doing different things, maybe 1099s, and all of those lead up to money. But when it comes to money, there's three things. You accumulate, you protect it, and then you distribute it when you get older and you can't really work as much. And many people have their own certified financial planner or CPA that goes through all of these things. A lot of those products are simply life insurance products, and I like to put together a policy or put together a plan with my clients. And just because you have a policy doesn't mean you have a plan. I like to put together a life plan so that people know what they have, what they don't have, what they're trying to build towards, because money is not magic. It is something that you need to pay attention to and takes effort. And just like putting on deodorant, if you don't do it, it sucks later. Putting together a life plan for someone is quite simply just sitting down and saying, what do you have in place? Who's it with? What do you give towards it? And what are you going to get out of it? And you don't know how many times when I sit down with someone, they're like, well, I got a life insurance plan, but they bought the life insurance plan 15 years ago. And the life insurance plan is a term life, which means it terminates. And so then the person has 5 years left on a plan and they think it's going to help them in retirement, but it's something that's going to expire even before they turn 65, and they don't know that. And so what I do is I sit down with people who are interested in knowing what they have and what their financial plan is. And what do you have? What's it supposed to do? And then we look at it and decide if that's actually what they have, and if I present them options. And if they want to implement the options, then great. That's not the way money works. Well, at the risk of trauma dumping, I realized my understanding of money was broken when someone that I called a very close friend stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I ended up having to file bankruptcy on $5.5 million. I had kids in my house, I had a wife, I had a mortgage, a couple cars, and everything stopped. There's no money available. And when someone emptied out your bank account, none of your contingency plans work when you don't have cash. And when I realized, when I experienced that to me was a real transformative trajectory in my career. I do life insurance because people don't know that for the cost of taking a few folks to Starbucks every month, they can have it to where if they die, their mortgage is covered or whatever their big expenses, and the people that they love aren't going to have a interpersonal or relational or medical crisis turn into a financial catastrophe. I've been there. I've had kids at home that I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to forget covering their stuff for school. And I remember having the conversation with my daughter saying, I can cover 1 year in money, but they won't loan me anymore for 2 years of college. And it's because I didn't have a plan. I didn't have those things put together. I thought if I work hard and if I bust my butt and if I'm honest and I do what I say I'm supposed to do, that I'm not going to be in this place. But that's not the way it works. Same thing could have happened to me if I was going and someone ran me over and ran into me with their car. One medical crisis, and families are ruined if they don't have the right coverage. And so the life and health insurance is something that is easily understandable. It takes a second, and it's hard for people to say, I trust you enough to tell you about my money. But if you just know your options, you don't get that place where you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because it's not as much as you would think just to have a plan and work it. I was a preacher a long time. I was a charismatic Pentecostal church I grew up in and worked in. When when major life events affected me, there were systems I thought would jump up and cover. And world doesn't work the way you expect it. Money is a very real thing. It's nothing sexy about it or confusing. When you need money is the time no one wants to ever help. When you have money and they just need to bring you dinner, people love doing that. But when things really get bad, if you don't have a plan, you don't even know what you have available. When I was leaving ministry, I started doing health and life insurance before the Affordable Care Act kind of was passed. And there was this lady I met, a yoga instructor, and she was the most fit person you could imagine, just a light to her world. And we were supposed to have a meeting to get her set up, and she was like, you know what? I got busy, I can't make it today. She postponed 2 weeks, which ended up being 4. And then when I called the day before to confirm, she told me, Dan, no reason for you to come out. I had a pain. I went into the doctor. They did a thing, and I had breast cancer. And she was dead months later. And now at that point, it was because the Affordable Care Act hadn't been passed, and she was allowed to be denied insurance because she had that pre-existing condition. That's changed at this point, but the exact same thing takes place with money. In my financial backgrounds that are good and bad, the bad is awful when you can't afford life. And in the same way that I really believed I was helping people in more of the religious role or hospice chaplain role, and maybe that took place. The thing that is hardest to deal with is when you can't afford the life you're used to and you're in a catastrophe. And the fact that I can help mitigate what that catastrophe is up front is very fulfilling. If I can just talk folks into being willing to sit down long enough just to say this is everything I got. And this is what I wanted to do. And then I either say, you know what, great. It looks like it's going to do what you want. Or this one isn't, but this one is. And just look at the policies, because you just got to take a look and make sure it's going to do what you want and have a plan. Just because you have a policy doesn't mean you have a plan. I keep going on the line of what would be a lie. What's lies that people tell. One of my favorite companies to work with, you've heard of a 501c3 company that's like a nonprofit, or a 501c1 that's a credit union. Well, it's a 501c8, which is a nonprofit, like financial and insurance institution. And if you're set up with just a life policy for $40-50 a month, there's money that they have designated to give out to the community through their members. So like you can get $1,500 a couple of times a year that you just pull out and give to the community. You can, they have legal services, so you can get a will written with advanced directives and power of attorneys. You can get all that put together for free underneath the life insurance policy you have if you get the right one. And so there's a lot more available than what people think. And if they just stop long enough to have the conversation, and if they're willing to be humble enough to say, I don't know everything, a lot of times they can get more than they even imagined. Oh, dude, the Medicaid spin down being approved for Medicaid long-term care. We pay into the system every paycheck. People who are on VA have paid into the system, sometimes with parts of their life and body. And it seems like unless you pay someone to help walk through it, it's hard to get the benefits you paid for. And that's wrong. If it's a government program and someone is qualified, these financial tools, people don't even understand what they're being asked. This lovely couple, they're from a oldest town in Colorado, and they paid into this whole life policy for 50 years, something like that, 40 years. Then they're at the place where they need their daughter to give them care at home because they can't function. And the government, our system says they are due someone to come into their home and provide them that care. When I met them, they had been trying to get through the Medicaid system for 8 months. And when I went in, one of the two of them hadn't even been started. And it's just wrong. And it's the fact that they don't know what they don't know. And because of that, they talk to one person and then they do what that person says. They talk to another, and the parts of our government don't talk to each other. I hate to break this to you, Matt. I hate to break it to you. Our government is not always a well-oiled machine. It doesn't always fit together. And sometimes, sometimes someone who's like me, I don't think I'm even legally allowed to fill out their application. But there's other organizations that our government has put in place to help with that. And just having someone to stand alongside you, just like an entrepreneur with a life plan, having someone who comes alongside you and just says, okay, let's sit down. This sucks where you're at. Let's start from today. What do you want to get done? What have you done to do? Okay, this is what you have working. You're missing this. Let's just make that phone call. My win is different than theirs. My win is different than the client's win because my win is never directly connected to whether or not I sell a policy. Because if I'm able to help someone, whether they buy something from me or I give a referral to someone who can help them, well, the money takes care of it itself. I watch so many people go through real catastrophes, and money is the last thing they want to deal with, but they have to. And having someone who can help coach them on their options and then connect them with the best way to take care of it brings them value, makes the system work the way it's supposed to. Best time to start having a financial plan that you understand is yesterday. Second best time is today. I have stories on stories of people. This real great receptionist at this law firm in her 60s. I really like her. I talked to her 5 times, probably just every time I go in the building, and she just couldn't get the attorneys to stop and go through and have a conversation because they wanted to set up a group plan so they could get a better rate and guaranteed issue, a whole different thing. But they wanted to set up a group rate under their business, and she just couldn't get everybody together. And you know what happened the last time I went in there 3 weeks ago? She went to the hospital. She had a heart attack. She's not qualified for anything. She can't get any coverage now because she just had that major issue. The hardest part is convincing people that you are mortal. And this is a conversation that is just as legitimate as setting up a bank account. It's just not as culturally common. It's not. Well, the thing is, yeah, it's never too late because in every situation, there are financial tools. You're not the first one to go through this. What if you told me, how do I talk to someone who may be in the place and saying, what if it's too late? There's always tools because you're not the first person to go through this. People have gone through this before, and some of them had enough money to pass laws to make it to where there's financial tools in place now to be able to help people in your situation. It doesn't matter what you could have done yesterday. It's what you can do today if you make the decision today. Because life's unexpected, bro. I am honest, I am transparent, and I am confident in the things I know. I like to pride myself on, I know what I don't know. I know major blind spots that I carried for years that I know I can control myself. And my job is not to get people to buy something. The moment that I try and picture, if you just bought this, I get out of my sweet spot. My sweet spot is What are your options and what do you want to do? The role I play, or the role I aim to play, is there are options. Tell me about your situation. Let me explain the options and let me connect you with people who specialize in what I don't specialize in. There's things I do. I'm happy to help people with it. And I know people who do just about everything else when you're going through these systems. And I am happy to connect you with other people if that's not my niche.